Hello and warm welcome to our series From NoCode to proCode, the right solution for everyone. And with this, I will hand over straight to Toros Alijan for further details. Over to you, Toros.
Thank you, Tanya. Welcome, everyone. My name is Toros Alijan. Thank you so much for joining us in our series From NoCode to proCode, the right solution for everyone. We have a great agenda lined up today for you. We're going to be covering Smart Predict with SAP Analytics Cloud with our colleague, Dr. Sarah Detzler, Competence Lead Data Science and Machine Learning. She will be covering all aspects of Smart Predict and Analytics Cloud. But before we get started, I'd just like to also let you guys know you can contact us after the session. You can reach out to Sarah, Tanya, or myself. I will be posting the contact information in the chat as we move forward through the session. I also want to let you guys know of some upcoming webinars if you're interested. Our ongoing series with the universe of SAP BTP in a nutshell is ongoing. We're already on episode 5. We just finished episode 4 this week. Next week will be episode 5. And 3 companion sessions. Obviously, the SAP Build Low-Code App Development and Automation. We'll have our final episode next week on that one. And this current series, NoCode to proCode, will go on till March the 23rd. A new one that we just started, it'll start on April the 20th, the open space of application operations within SAP BTP. And finally, in collaboration with our partner Accenture, on March the 7th, we'll be bringing you Perform Mass Data Changes in SAP SuccessFactors. We're also hosting several on-site events. I won't go through all of them, but just suffice it to say, it'll be in Madrid, Copenhagen, Stockholm, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Calgary, and Dublin. If any of these cities are close to you or you'd like to join us for the full day event where you'll meet our SAP topic experts along with our partner experts and share in some of the stories that our customers are sharing with that they've had successes in BTP, you're most welcome to join us. Also, as part of the Customer Value Network, our episode 3 in about 2 weeks, we'll be having our episode 3 of the Garage series, Identify Optimization Potential in the User Experience of Your Business App. So that's on March the 1st. We'll be hosting that twice in the 2 main time zones that's friendly in your area. So if you're interested in joining us there, please do so. And finally, there's several other forums that we have available for you, wealth of information that we're sharing over the next couple of months around BTP, Fiori, and SAP Build. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Sarah. Sarah?
Yes, thank you very much for the nice introduction. I will start sharing my screen. Yes, today I would love to talk a little bit about the Smart Predict features in the SAP Analytics Cloud. As you probably heard last week, this is a self-service or a low-code solution that is directly built in within SAP Analytics Cloud. As the name already says, SAP Analytics Cloud is our analytics solution, so where you can also build dashboards. You can also use it for planning functionalities, but of course, it also has some machine learning and prediction functionalities directly built in. And that's Smart Predict. And this is what I would like to present you today. Now, I always call it, let's start to look ahead, because that's what we're actually doing, not just analyzing the data, but we also try to look into the future with the data that we have. And I would like to start today with telling you a little bit about how I did actually get this fancy job title, Competence Lead for Data Science and Machine Learning. This is also thanks to Smart Predict, actually. So let's start to have a look at that. So a few years ago, I thought it is time for a promotion. Now, I did a good job. I always received good feedback from customers, from my colleagues. So I thought it might be a good idea to tell my manager it's time for a promotion. And of course, as a data scientist, I thought, well, why not do this with data? Yeah, so I was trying to get all the data that I could find, and I was basically calculating my own churn probability. And as you can see, as a data scientist, I could also do this with R. This example is, for example, an R code, where we're just basically doing the same thing, predicting, how likely it is that I will leave the company in case I don't get a promotion. So unfortunately, my manager wasn't a data scientist, and of course he wasn't then so surprised just by using some R code, So, but luckily we had the tool SAP Analytics Cloud. Because of that, I could, instead of just using this R code, I could also do the predictions directly in SAP Analytics Cloud and then build a nice dashboard. And then here, this nice dashboard was something he could, pretty much more rely on. He could understand what I was actually doing, and he could understand how important it is for me also to get this promotion. It worked so well, actually, that I didn't just get the promotion, I also got the fancy job title. So in case you're wondering what predictive and machine learning can actually do for you and how it can support you in your daily life, that might be a good example. And like I said, of course, you could use the open source world, but this is also something I really like about Smart Predict. It also bridges the gap between us data scientists and the end users, because the best model is actually worthless if no one can use it, or no one can relate to it, no one can understand it. Here in this case, I needed to convince my manager, and our coding just wasn't the way to go. It was actually using Smart Predict and this wonderful dashboard to finally convince them. So let's have a look at how you can also do such predictions with SAP Analytics Cloud Smart Predict. I have a quick motivation what you could use it for besides my example here. And we see a lot of a big gap between the ambitions of our customers and actually the reality. We know, of course, that machine learning predictions are an important topic, and everyone wants to make the best out of the data. So everyone basically wants to use statistic methods to improve the business processes. It's currently at the goal of almost everyone. And to do this, we need to analyze a large amount of data, which can be really time consuming. So it makes sense also to speed this process up, make it as easy as possible. And also we want to automate the decision making to improve the quality of our decisions. What we also want to do, because we humans sometimes tend to have certain biases, we want to have also the neutral look from the data that then will show us, is this bias correct or not? Or sometimes we make some assumptions which then might be true or not. And so with the data, with this neutral look from the data, we can then really rethink our own assumptions and our own bias to get a better overview of what is actually happening. And we might know some rules, we also might detect some patterns on ourselves, but sometimes these rules are pretty complex. And then it's sometimes too hard for us humans to see all these rules that we can have there, because they're just too many, too complex. So we also want to discover these new rules so that we don't miss something. And of course, we want to do this on a large amount of data, which is constantly changing. We live in fast changing times. So there's a lot of new things coming in all the time, a lot of new patterns that we need to detect. So it's also good, again, to make this step as easy as possible. Why do we want to do this? Of course, because we want to outstrip the competition. We want to be better. We want to be the first ones to detect these patterns and improve our decision making. This is actually what we are aiming for. But like I said, there's a big gap between what is actually happening in reality. The reality is that the complexity of the data and the tools is sometimes problematic. Not everyone is familiar with using R or Python. Most business users don't want always to code to do this. So we need also some tools to enable the business users to do so. And only few business analysts are constantly using these advanced and predictive analytics tools. Also because of this skill gap and the complexity of the tools itself. We also have a lack of qualified analytics analysts or some big data analysts or some data scientists. I know it's getting better here, but still there's a lot of demand for such colleagues at the market. And there's probably this famous statement from Gartner that 40% of the data science tasks will be automated. Not sure if we already reached that, but of course it's nice that we could automate at least some of the tasks, maybe also the easier tasks, so that we data scientists can spend more time on the more difficult tasks and can improve so. And we detected this gap, and so this is then also something we want to tackle with Smart Predict, that we close the gap. And the idea is that we now offer some statistical methods for the business users. So not only data scientists like me can use it, as you can see, I'm also a big fan of it and I also like to use it, but we also want to enable the business analysts, the business users to also do their own predictions. And I know there are a lot of business analysts around that also have a lot of interest in statistics, mathematics, and they of course want to do their own predictions. And the tool Smart Predict tries to enable them to do so. There's this wonderful term, citizen data scientist. I'm not such a big fan of this term. For me, it's just the motivated business analysts who also wants to get access to their own predictions. The good part is when you enable such a business analyst to do so, they already bring a lot of knowledge with them regarding the data. They know every field, basically everything which is in the data, which I sometimes, as a data scientist who's not that close to this special case of data, sometimes doesn't know. So they know already everything about the data. They also have some ideas what could be in the data, how to use it, and so on. They also know the business processes. So it's actually great that we could give them some option to do their own predictions, because then it's also easier for them to include it directly into their business processes. The good part is also that we could close this gap that we sometimes have between the business analysts or the end users and us data scientists. We are then doing some fancy stuff in R and Python, but the business analysts or business users don't always understand what we are doing. And then they might not trust the model. And with Smart Predict, we can actually do this together. At the beginning, we can show them how it works. We can also give them some guidance at the beginning, and then later on, they can do it on their own. But they also understand what is going on. They trust it, and then they have a way better feeling than using also this model in the end. Because the best model is definitely worthless if no one is using it. So this is the idea behind Smart Predict. So then let's see, how are we doing this? What kind of scenarios do we offer here? And the idea is that we have these predictive scenarios, and they're as guided and as automated as our business users need it. So we focus here on business goals, and not so much on a highly sophisticated mathematical description. We try to use also the language that the business users prefer, where they can relate to make it as easy as possible for them. So we focus here on the business goals, the predictor definition, and then as the insights, we get, of course, the quality indicators, which shows us how good our prediction it is, so that we also can see how good and how accurate it is, how much we can trust it, and also we try to make these predictions as understandable as possible. So that the business user really knows what is going on and also knows why did the model make this decision. This also helps to improve the acceptance of such tools. And the idea is now that the business analyst chooses the predictive scenario that suits best for his business question. And then in the workspace, the user is guided through the following steps. The first one is, of course, we select the data set. Then we need to define what do we want to predict, so our target. And then also the predictors, so what could influence our target. In this case. Then what will happen? You don't need to code anything. You just press a button and it will train and test automatically some models for you. And then the best result will be presented to you. And then, of course, you can assess the model quality. So you can see what is the best model, how good is the model, and where can you actually use it. And we have 3 scenarios for this. We have a classification. This is also something which I will show you later on live in the tool. Yeah. So here we can predict if someone will churn or if someone will buy something in the next month or in the next quarter. And in my case, predicting the churn probability of an employee was also what I used this classification. We can also do some regressions. That means here we will maybe forecast how many products will a customer buy in the next month. Yeah? And the last one is forecasting. This is something which is quite in fashion at the moment, especially because everyone is using it for predictive planning. So we also have a lot of planning customers on our SAP Analytics Cloud. So they use that for their KPIs, financial KPIs planning. And of course, they also want to improve this and want to make it as easy as possible for their controllers. Yeah, these planning scenarios. So they want to enrich that also with predictions and machine learning. And this is something you can also do directly in the SAP Analytics Cloud. So you can even work on your planning models. And then you can do with the forecasting functionality a monthly forecast or daily if needed or on weekly basis. But most of the time, let's be honest, it's done monthly for the next quarter, next 2 quarters or so on, so that you directly get some suggestions for your controllers. And then they can use the suggestion for their planning process and they can improve that. Of course, sometimes you need some manual changes. Yeah. Because maybe the controller knows something the data or the tool didn't yet. So they can do a manual change in the data if needed. But in this case, you actually get the best of both worlds. Yeah, you get a neutral look from the data, the suggestions from your forecasting tool directly within SAP Analytics Cloud, and the controller can make their manual changes if needed. Yeah, and this is something like that, which is quite in fashion. And by the way, SAP is also using this. Yeah, internally. Okay. So, and the cool part is for Smart Predict with our basic procedures, you don't need any programming skills. There's no technical terminology. It's a really guided process that really focus on business-oriented questions. And you get the results displayed in an understandable way, like you see here on the screenshots with nice graphs or so on. No worries, I will guide you through these graphs. Yeah, so that we will have a look at them later on so that you really understand what is going on there. Okay, let's have a look at one example before we go directly into the tool. Like I said, yeah, a classification is actually one use case which is quite common. So I here picked one, and in this case, we here want now to optimize a marketing campaign. So let's say we have our call center, yeah, and they want to contact the customers who are most likely to buy an offered product. Yeah, if we don't have any machine learning support, then for our call center agents, it's just numbers. Like here, they're all just black dots and we don't know much about them. So we could just start with one number and call everyone and try to sell the product. Yeah, might not be the best choice to do so. Yeah, because we want to contact the customers with the highest propensity to buy. And to do so, we train now our machine learning model. So what we do is we have a look at data from the past. So we want to learn from the past. Who actually bought during our last marketing campaign? And as you can see now, not everyone is black anymore, but we have a few green dots. And these are the ones that bought actually last time. So what we now are trying to do with Smart Predict is we try to find some rules that set these two groups apart. Yeah, so we want to separate the green ones from the actual black ones, the ones that bought from the one who didn't. Yeah. So we train our predictive model now with the data from the past. yeah, where we already know who bought something, and then we find the certain rules, yeah, what was actually the difference. And how are we doing this? Yeah, we're doing this with the data. Luckily, we not just only have the data, oh yeah, person A bought, person B didn't, but also the things we didn't know about this person. Yeah, so for example, the time they spent on our shopping portal, the number of abandoned shopping carts, we know maybe their age, their gender, if they're married or not. Yeah, we know how they in general buy once a year or how much they bought last year. And so everything basically on their behavior and also about the person that we can know. So with this, these are then our influencing factors. Well, we try to train our model to see actually what fits best. And now we find maybe some patterns. Yeah, we find some patterns that this product might be resonate pretty well with maybe younger people, or it's more interesting, for people who try to or tend to spend a lot in our online shop or so on. So these are then the patterns that we detected. And what we can do now, we can apply the rules and the patterns that we have detected to our new potential customers. And now, as you can see, our dots are not black anymore. They are now colored in a darker green, which are the ones with the highest probability to buy. We have ones with a lower green. They still have quite a good chance to buy, but not as high as the other one. And then we have the more orange ones. These are the ones who are less likely to buy our product. Yeah, so basically we apply these rules to the potential customers, and then we assign the probability to each of the customers. Yeah? And this then stands for the likelihood that this customer will buy the offered product. Now we can sort our customers. So you can see here, we have the green ones on top, and it goes for the ones which have a more an orange color, so which are less likely to buy. And now our call center can just start on the top, and then he can contact the ones with the highest probability first, and then when he's running out of time, then he can just stop contacting them. Otherwise, if we didn't have this information, it would just be a random selection, and then we might lose a lot of potential for our customers. Yeah, so this way our call center agent now can also use the time way more efficient. Okay, so this is one option, and this is also a use case that we see quite often. That we try to optimize this marketing campaign, whether it's with a call center or with sending out emails or newsletters or something. But like I said, we can also use it to detect some churn. Yeah, either if it's customers that will churn, or either if it's employees that will churn. And I think I will show you my prediction of the employee churn now directly live in the tool. Yeah. So here we go now to the tool SAP Analytics Cloud. This is the welcome screen. It says, "Hi, Sarah." And maybe let's first have a look at the data that we want to use. So therefore, I go here to my file section, to my personal folder, and here I can now search for my employee churn. And this is the data set I will use later on for training. Let's just see what we have here. Okay. And you see we have here actually, it's quite a big data set. Yeah, so we will have here a lot of information. So we have our employee ID. Of course, everything is anonymized. We have here the age of this person. We know from which generation this person is. We have here, for example, if it's a critical job role or not, the risk of loss. This is a field I like pretty much because the risk of loss is filled by the managers. So the manager can give here a suggestion whether he thinks the probability that someone is leaving is quite high or quite low. And I think this is always quite good because sometimes managers think they have a good idea of what is going on. But in some cases, this is not always the case, to be honest. So what I saw in other projects as well. I even heard managers say that, when someone has a new haircut, a little relief, then it's quite likely that this person will also leave the company. Yeah, you know, when you're up for new changes, like a new haircut, then you're also up for other changes. But sorry, this might not be the best we can do. Yeah, with all the data that we have here, we definitely can do better than just looking at the haircuts and so on. Yeah, so this is why I find this particularly interesting, also to see if the managers might have a little bias here or not. Yeah, we have here also some things like the impact of laws. We see if someone is on a future leader track, the gender, basically everything. We also see if someone is employed in full-time, if they have a regular contract or a part-time contract, and here this previous. So we can also see, yeah, where did someone work before? So a previous functional area. As you can see, this is not filled for everyone because we might have also some new hires that basically have their first job at our company. So then, of course, this field is empty, but we also have some employees that has changed their job within the company. Yeah, so we basically know everything about them, where they worked before, what their current position is, and so on. So we have really a lot of data, as you can see here. Yeah. So now it's also interesting to see what of these, all the factors that we have now are actually influencing if someone is leaving or not. So this might also be a good chance to see what is influencing or not. So where should managers also pay more attention to? Just that you know, the data you see here, yeah, it's actually fake data. So I simulated it myself. Yeah. So it's not real data of any company. I know this is quite sensitive with employee churn. So this is why I simulated this data myself. But it's still, yeah, quite valid data to see what is going on and how you could use Smart Predict to improve, yeah, your churn rate. So what we do now is we press here on this 3 dots and then go to predictive scenarios, because now we want to do our prediction. And as I promised you, you have the 3 scenarios, the classification, the regression, and the time series. And again, you see here how guided it is, because you can now see when you go here with mouse over, you can get a short description. So here in this case, on a classification, we see you want to predict membership of categories such as yes or no on a population ranked with the most probable case at the least. Yeah, so this is exactly what we want to do. Yeah, it even gives us an example. Yeah, predict if a customer is likely to churn. In our case, it's not a customer, it's an employee, but still churn rate, that's the way to go. So this is why we select that. The first thing I need to do is now I need to save my model. So I give it a name. So let's call it employee churn. Could also give it an additional description if I wanted to. Yeah, but in this case, it's not needed. So after I saved my model, now nothing has happened yet. So what I can do now is I can select my training data. Therefore, I click here again, and now I go to the folder that I just showed you. Can search here for my employee churn data set, and I will use the one here, employee churn train. And again, we can have a look here also at the columns that we have. So you can see the same ones we saw before, the employee ID, age, the tenure, how long is someone with the company, salary, and so on. And then the next step is that I need to select my target. So I need to say, what do I want to predict? In our case, scroll to the bottom, we want here to predict the flight risk, because this is the flag from our historic data that lets us know who left the company in the last 12 months. Yeah, so in the last year, who did leave the company? And this is now the data where we want to learn from. Of course, I can now exclude some data. And this makes particularly sense when we have something like an employee ID, because an employee ID was actually given to the customers randomly. So even if I would find some patterns here, it would be nonsense. Yeah, so this is why I would like to exclude the employee ID. Some might argue that the employee ID might somehow relate to the age, but we have the age here as its own predictor, so it's a better predictor that we could use. I will also include the longitude and latitude. of the countries someone is currently working or someone has worked before, because we have the country itself as a predictor, so we don't need the longitude and latitude. And I can also exclude here, for example, the age group for 10 or 5 years. And then I can go on select. Sorry, now it froze a little bit. I will just try to reload. Okay. Sorry for that. Just reloading and then we will continue. Okay, here we go again. Let's just try that again. I will reselect my data source. Then we will do our predictions again. Okay, so now we have our data set again, the target variable, same as before, flight risk. Now we will exclude our columns. Longitude, latitude, the age groups, and really sorry, it froze again. One more try. If not, I already prepared a model that we can look at, but let's just try one more time. Again, excluding influencing factors, and now I click on train. So this time it seems to work. And
due to some connectivity issues.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you still see my screen? Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can see and hear you, Sarah.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah. So now it's testing different models. You can also see here the status, what it's doing. It's training, and now it already finished training. So it was testing different models in the background, and now it will show us the best one. And here we now can see our results. So here we see some indications how good our model is. The first thing we see here is our predictive power. And we see here we have a predictive power of almost 80%, which is actually pretty good. And this predictive power tells us how much of the information that we had in our target variable we could explain with our model here. So meaning in how many cases, in this case almost 80% of the cases, we could explain why someone left the company. And this is actually quite high. Yeah. And it's actually typical that we don't find all the patterns. Yeah. So we will probably never have a predictive power of 100%. Yeah. But here, like I said, 80% is actually a really, really good model. I also saw a lot of customers where we just have a predictive power of 60%, but which was still delivering them, yeah, very well at results and was just so much better than just having no prediction at all. Yeah. Some customers sometimes tend to say, yeah, but Sarah, I need definitely predictive power, which is better than 50%. Otherwise, it's just random selection. This is not true. A random selection would have a predictive power of 0. So everything which is better here than 0 is actually better than random selection. Yeah, so just that you know how to interpret also this predictive power. The second one, the predictive confidence, is even more important, because this tells us how robust our model is. Of course, I don't only want here to apply my model on the already known data. I don't want to perform it just dwell on the employees that I know that just left. I also want to apply it to the new ones, to the new employees where I'm also interested if they are likely to leave the company or not. So I want to use this model on new and unseen data. And this predictive confidence then tells us how likely it is that our model will also perform well on this new and unseen data. And here we use a color coding. So here everything is green. So when everything is green, then everything is fine. We talk here about a pretty robust model. In case it would go more into a yellow, orange, or even red direction, then that could be an indication that we would need more data or that we would need data of a better quality. This sometimes can also happen that we don't have enough data or that the data quality is just bad. Can happen, but in our case, everything is good, everything is green, so we talk here about a pretty robust model. So you also see here that we have here a training and validation data set. This was something which our data set did in the background. So our tool Smart Predict did in the background. It was splitting up the data in a part that it was using for training, and the validation is the one to check how robust the model is. To see how good it will perform on unseen data, we of course need to have some unseen data. So this is why we have this validation data set to also prevent it from overfitting to the known data and then not generalizing enough. So this is why we do this splitting. And this is one of the steps which is done completely in the background for you, where you don't have to take care of. So that the idea of the tool is also to give you, of course, a pretty accurate, but also a pretty robust model. At the influencing contributions, we will have a look at them soon, but maybe first, let's talk about here this wonderful curve. This curve gives you an idea of how good our model performs in comparison to random selection. So the red curve that we see here is actually a random selection. And the green one is our perfect model. So if our model would predict everything perfectly, then it would fit to the green one. Like I said, we will never reach that. But what our model can do now is actually the blue one. So here, for example, if I go for a random selection of 19% of the employees, then I would detect, of course, 19% of my churners. And if I go now to the blue one, come on. No. So let's maybe stick to this point. Of course, in this case, I only have 9% of the churners. So if I would go for the perfect model, of course, with just picking 9% of the population, I would already get all of my churners. But here with my blue one, for example, if I select here 17% of my employees, I would already get more than 66% of the churners. Remember, with the random selection, 17% would be also 17% of the churners. And here it's more than 66%. So we have a really high lift that we have here. And this is also then, which is showing you how much better your model actually performs than the random selection. By focusing on the 17% with the highest probability to leave the company, you already get more than 2/3 of the ones that will likely leave the company. And this is a pretty big improvement compared to the random selection. Okay, now let's talk about the influencing contributors. This is also quite interesting, especially for the business users, because now they see also what is going on. And also in this case, just giving us a number, okay, it's a chance of 70% that employee XYZ is leaving, might not help you how you can prevent it. But the influencing factors now can. So what we see here, and this was also something which was important in my case, a promotion within the last 3 years has a big impact. And also the functional area change type can have a big impact. We can now have a deeper look at that. Scrolling down here, and let's select now the functional area functional area change type. And with this, we can now see what happens. A functional area change type means someone within the company was moving to a new job. So here, for example, we have a high probability when someone was doing an intra-functional sales move. So maybe going from one development team to another team. Then these people are quite likely to change, to churn, because maybe it wasn't the change they were hoping for. It was basically the same in the other development team and they were looking for other changes. So that's why they're leaving. Or maybe we also had some problem with the process when someone is internally changing their job. We see when there's no change at all, then they're also quite neutral, whether they will leave or not. And external hires and someone who does a cross-functional move. So maybe I did, 6 years ago, moving from a developer job to a customer advisory job. These kind of people are more likely to stay with the company. And so with this, we can then have a look at all the other things. We can see if the gender has some impact, if the future leader track has some impact, and maybe the age. This might also be quite interesting. The age is, for me, quite interesting because this is something I see in all the use cases we did in this area. There's always something, I call it company midlife crisis. There's certain age groups which are, and this is individual for each company, which are more likely to leave the company. So in our case, we have the younger people, 18 to 24. So we definitely have a problem with keeping the young talents. Or the new hires. So our onboarding process might not be that good, or we might not offer too many interesting things for the younger generation. So this is then something we could think of and where we could start making some changes. But here we see also when someone is between 39 and 40, this is an age where then people might think, okay, will I go now for something else or will I stay with the company? The same happens again with between 43 and 49. So these are then the areas where they are quite likely to stay. While when you pass this point, so here, as you can see, when you're over this point, you're more likely to stay with the company until you retire. And so with this, you can now have a deeper look at each of these influencing factors and can then see what actually leads someone to leave the company and what made them actually stay and what can we do about it. Like here, we should definitely have a look at our onboarding program and also on the options we offer to young people. So let's maybe have a look at the impact of loss. As you can see here, like I said, the gut feeling of the managers, it's still there, but it has a pretty lower influence here with just 1.8%. So less than 2%. Impact does it have? So this shows also again that our managers sometimes might not see the full picture and that they can also really benefit from such a model. Because just looking at the haircut of someone, like I said here, might not be the best option. You might even more look into the areas like functional area. So if someone changed the job within the company, promotions, or the time in the previous position. So how long has someone been with another position? Or other things, which are a bit more important than this. Okay, and now I said, of course, we can not just use our model, we can also apply our model. So therefore, I will here now apply my predictive model. I can again select here my data set, and I will not apply it to the data I already used for training. I also have now prepared a data set with new data. So this is the ones applying where I don't have, where I don't know yet if someone's left the company or not. I just copied all the information and now I can just say, okay, what do I want? Here, I want here my predictive probability and also the category, so the decision. What was the decision the model made? And now I just need to say, okay, where should I save it? And scroll down and give it a name. Just call it, my employee result. And then I click here on apply. And what it's now doing, it's applying the model I just trained to the new data set, and then it will give me an indication who of these ones will leave the company or which one don't. Here again, I see the status. Okay, it has now applied the model, and now I can go back to my files and I can now have a look at my new data set. Here we go to see what has happened. And when I scroll completely to the right, we now see here that it has some prediction probability that someone is leaving. So here someone has just a probability of less than 7. And this is of course classified as a no. But when we scroll down, we also see here someone who was classified as yes has a probability of more than 71% to leave the company. Yeah, so with this now we get a good indication if someone is leaving, and we also saw the influencing factors, what is actually might be going wrong or what might give our employees a reason to leave the company. So we can also do something about it. And like I said, SAP Analytics Cloud is not just a tool to do such predictions, but now I can also build some nice visualization, nice stories on this data set. I will not show you how this works because we are already running out of time. So I will just show you how such a final dashboard could look like. Yeah, and this is also something I used in my case. Yeah, so we have here, for example, the employee turnover. So this is the prediction. I just told you if someone is leaving or not. And also, what I also did was the second analysis on the position change type. You saw from the influencing factors that when someone is moving internally from one job to another, this has a high impact if someone will leave the company. So in my case, it made sense to also have a deeper look in this area. And here I find this one particularly interesting. This shows you how likely it is that someone will be successful when someone is moving from one area to another. I find it quite interesting. This is a sales role. So when someone is moving from sales to internal IT, the likelihood that someone is making a good job, it's actually 0. While when you go from one sales team to another, it's more than 80% that you will be successful. In my case, here I worked here before, like I said, in development, and then moved to a custom advisory role, which is also more a sales related role. Here, the probability is just 27.8% that you will be successful. So this was also an indication from a manager, come on, you cannot replace me that easily. You cannot just go to the development department and find a new Sarah. And the probability is quite low that such a person will directly be successful again. But so it's also quite interesting to see which of these moves are successful, and that we could also think of some things we could do. So in my case, when you go from development role into a custom advisory role, you might think of some certain trainings. Maybe presentation trainings, because this is something you don't do so often in the development role, or other trainings to support people during this transition phase. Or also maybe work with a buddy concept. So you have someone who will support you with the new role where you can ask questions and these kind of things to make also this internal moves a better success, also a faster success. And also we can do more with the visualization. Sorry, I guess I need to reload again. So we can do more. We can even do build some nice maps where you can then see this on a country-specific page, and so on, so that we can then really understand what is going on. And this is quite nice that now the business users have the option to build their own visualizations. Here's the data again. To build their own visualizations, their own predictions, and also enrich then their visualizations with that. So what you can see here, for example, we see here in green, for each of the employees who are at the moment doing such a move, we see how likely it is that it will be successful. And we also see the top criteria, when something is successful or not. Here, of course, also for the employees that are leaving, no worries. This list is of course sorted, so not everyone is leaving. Yeah, but here we see the ones with the highest probability to leave, and here we also see the main reasons why someone leaving the company. Yeah? And with this we can then now make some better decisions and try to prevent these people from leaving the company. So maybe the third tab. Yeah. Here you can see we can also work with maps so that we can see, okay, we might have a bigger problem in Germany, and my data, in the simulated data, I have most of the people are working in Germany, but there we also have a higher likelihood that someone is leaving compared to India, for example, or China. Yeah. So with this, we can then also see where we might take some more action to prevent people from leaving the company. And this also brings me to the end of my presentation. So I can just say thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'm really looking forward to answering them now. Over to you, Tanya.
Thank you very much, Sarah. It was a very interesting presentation. Interesting to know what all the data that is available on ourselves. And to the first question, is your company's midlife crisis already over?
When you look at the tenure, so how long I've been with SAP, in April is actually 11 years. So when you just look at the tenure, I think at SAP, most people start to think after 8 years if they will leave the company or not. So from this comparison, the time is over. But when you look at my age, I'm not 40 yet. Yeah, so there might be a chance that in a few years when I turn 40, I might think a bit differently. But I can just say I'm pretty happy to work with SAP right now. So yeah.
Great, thank you. So let us come to the questions from the chat. Can I, as an SAP customer, use Smart Predict to know what is the chance that my suppliers try to tell us, try to call us to sell us something and be prepared for it?
This is a use case I haven't done so yet. I would say we need to have a look at your data, what data is available, and then how we model it. But I think that might be something that we can do with SAP Analytics Cloud. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And then another participant said that she's seeing Smart Predict for the first time and is not a data scientist. Where do we learn the basics of prediction first? Because he wrote that you used some terminology. They were not familiar with.
That can happen. I'm a mathematician, so I'm really sorry. I'm not as Smart Predict always saying to the business terms. Yeah, you can of course always ask me in case there is some too mathematical terms. But I also wrote some hands-on tutorials, and Tanya, I think we can share the links, and there everything. Also, what I showed you today is explained step by step. So there's also a bit more explanation on what training actually means, what applying and so on means. So there's a pretty good explanation in this hands-on tutorials. By the way, like I said, I used some simulated data, so we can even share the link to the data set I just used today via GitHub, so you can download it and can basically do the same demo I just showed you today. You can try it on your own in your SAP Analytics Cloud tenant. Yeah. Just that you know, you need a special user. So just with your BI user, it might not work. You also need a predictive user to do so. So you might then, in case you don't see under the 3 dots, the predictive scenarios, you might check with your system administrator in your SAP Analytics Cloud.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I already posted the link to the GitHub, and I just now posted the link to the tutorial. So you will have everything. And then the next question, 2 questions. So first one is, if we create new feature fields in SAP Analytics Cloud, will Smart Predict take new fields into consideration? That's the first one.
It actually does. So it takes everything into consideration what is available in your data set or your planning model that you train your model on. Yeah, so it will take everything in consideration which is there at the moment you click on train.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then the second question is for decent and reliable predictive power and prediction confidence. What is the least number of rows in a training data set that is recommended?
Yeah, so we recommend that you have for the target group that you want to detect. In our case, it was the churners, and we just had 10% of people leaving the company, which is actually pretty good. Yeah, so in our case, we're happy that we just had 10% of the churners. So we say that you should have at least 1,000 of the target group that you're interested in. Yeah, so in our case, the churners, so we should have at least 1,000 people leaving the company to get here a good prediction. This is so our rule of thumb. It can sometimes depend. Sometimes you can even be successful with a few less, or sometimes it can happen that you need more, but 1,000 is always a good indication.
Okay, thank you very much. Then one final question so far, at least, how can I get started with the self-service tool?
Yes, so we already shared last week also the Discovery Center with you. There are also a few missions, of course, on SAP Analytics Cloud. And like I said, the hands-on tutorials I wrote, not just the one for Smart Predict classification, I also wrote one for predictive planning. So you can also check that out, and then you can really try it on your own. It's explained step by step. And if you have any questions, of course, you can always come back to me and ask me more questions. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Yes, as usual, our contact details are in the chat. Feel free to contact us. And okay, so far, Toros, I don't know about you. There's one. Okay, SAP Signavio versus Smart Predict. Do they have some similarities? Any thoughts on that?
Well, they have a slightly different focus. Yeah, so with Smart Predict, we try to improve maybe the planning, the planning accuracy, but we are not to try to improve, we're not modeling our processes and see how we can improve the processes themselves. Of course, our predictions can lead to better decision-making, better results, and then maybe also improve the business processes. But these are completely two different, let's say, the targets and also start points of them. So these two things, of course, can support each other to give you better results. But from the starting point, the first thing is you start with the data, you do your predictions, and with Signavio, you would model your processes and try to improve them. So these are then different workflows that you would do there. Like I said, of course, the predictions can then help to improve your processes. So you could include them, while you work with Signavio. But they're two separated approaches. Let's say it like this. I hope that helps.
Great, thank you. So I think that was the last one. Well, it was the last one. We have 2 minutes more before we are on top of the hour. And anyway, again, feel free to contact us anytime. And you can also join us next week for the next session. So if any questions pop up next time, just write them down and post them next week. We'll be happy to answer them then. Toros, anything from your side?
No, thank you, Sarah, for a great session again. Thank you, Tanya. If you guys, like Tanya said, if you guys have any additional questions, hopefully we've answered. Sarah's answered all of your questions. Maybe some new questions will pop up. The contact information is there, along with the links for all of our other webinars. Please join us again next week. We're going to be covering SAP Build Process Automation. As I always say, same time, same place next week. Hopefully you guys will be able to join us. Thank you again. Have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're located. Thank you so much.
Thank you from my side. Looking forward to seeing you next week again. Wait, a quick question, 1 minute. Thanks for the great session, Sarah. And could you please provide me the learning path for NoCode to proCode? Do you mean for the links for the all sessions? If yes, just join this session again. And below you can find the link to all presentations and where you can register to join all the sessions. It's right in the description of today's session. Okay, then with this, thank you. Looking forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.